people blocking them who maybe just don't understand. They just don't understand what it means for a society to operate. And the Torah, I don't know what the rabbi is going to speak, so I can't say, but the Torah is a blueprint of how we're supposed to conduct ourselves in a humane manner. And one of the things in the Torah is that you have to create a police force to keep and judges. But it didn't say anything about that. The judges have to create the politicians, or they have to set the rules, or whatever. So first, I just want to just briefly explain, if anyone doesn't know, that the Torah Gemach started 11 years ago, and the reason it was started was that I am Chabad from birth. I realized that the shluchim, representatives of the Rebbe who go out in the boondocks, they have so many things that they have to pay for, and they have to raise their own money. And the thing that that is on the bottom of the list, but it helps them grow, is a Torah. And we fortunately are in New York. There's many Torahs that are sitting around in the back of the shuls and not being used. So I came up with this idea, and I presented it to one of the organizations that has the most hands-on with the shluchim, and for them it was a no-brainer. They had the problem, they didn't know how big it was, and I had a solution. It wasn't going to cost them money, and so thank God I have a lot of mitzvah partners. I call them mitzvah partners, who help sponsor Torahs, and Baruch Hashem, we have over 190 Torahs on long-term loan around the world. And in fact, I was telling you, I was busy today. I had 3 Sefer Torahs in a place called Chernigov, Ukraine, and the shliach was there up until yesterday, and he got out. And now I needed to create for him paperwork so that he can get the Torahs out during the Western Ukraine. So even though we're sitting over here and people are sending money or whatever, they didn't realize what's going on over there. One of the people who is a mitzvah partner of mine, his name is David Fleischman. He helped sponsor this Torah, and from time to time I always have the opportunity to do certain themes. As I showed the chief a picture before, and Detective Nuzi knows about it. He was here. I did already, unfortunately, for the 6 police officers that got killed in Texas, and this Torah is there. I've done for some of the victims, the ones in Pittsburgh and in Poway also as well, which was done actually through the Jaffa Family Foundation, who's helped sponsor many Torahs. So first, I appreciate the fact that by putting the names in memory on a Torah, it creates, if you want to call it an afterlife. Every time somebody gets called up to the Torah and makes a blessing on it, it gives them an extra merit, which they can't get, but we can do by doing that, by having their name on the Torah in memorial. People can do it also in honor of somebody. You don't have to die to get your name on it. I guess you just have to have money. I appreciate that everybody came here to honor these 2 heroes. And if anyone has a chance to look at, you'll see that it's also in honor of all the police officers that serve us on a daily basis, that make our lives better in New York City. I'm hoping that I don't have to ever do this again, but I'm going to continue. I want to introduce the Rabbi Zalman. The reason he is Chabad of King's Highway. He's been a friend for a very long time. And Rabbi Morozov, who is actually the rabbi of the Torah Gemach, and he's my personal rabbi from the shul that I daven in, he's stuck in traffic, and so Rabbi Zalman graciously stepped up to and I think he's just as qualified as Rabbi Morozov is to talk about this. A little bit? Almost. Okay, please.
Okay. Thank you, Rabbi Benson, for all what you do. There's a tradition in the Talmud for over 1,000 years that when God appoints a person in society with leadership, whether it's through votes or whatever. So God first really looks into that person. He interrogates him from heaven if that person is worthy or she's worthy of that position of leadership politically or in power or in government. Now, I think that definitely applies, to the top brass. No question about it. God wanted you to be here doing this, which is amazing. It's not by chance. Whoever created the universe looked upon you specifically, individually, with divine providence and chose you for a position, which is an amazing responsibility, an awesome responsibility, but also a privilege. But I think that applies also in a microcosm to every officer, because there is a certain position of leadership that every officer has, whether they're patrolling a block, a community. I think there's definitely a certain interrogation that's looked upon you, every officer, before you're appointed, and you're obviously worthy of having this position. So make sure to think about that you were ordained, you were appointed by God to be a policeman, an officer of a certain zip code. And again, that's a great responsibility, but it's also a great privilege. In the Torah it says that you should appoint judges and patrol and police. People always associate commandments and rituals with the Jewish people, which is true. We have 613 commandments. That's a lot of commandments to follow. I'm not saying we're all following them perfectly, but the truth is, in the same Torah, given by the same God, at the same Mount Sinai, somewhere in the desert, in the Middle East, God gave 7 laws to all of humanity. And one of those 7 laws, you can imagine how important they are if there's only 7, how important it is for any person to follow them, and how important it is to God that you follow them. One of those 7 laws is actually to have a system of justice in your society. So you have to understand, every one of you, everyone in the police force, I'm talking for New York City, who protects me and protected me my whole life and will continue protecting me, and all of us, and we're grateful for it. Every one of you is constantly fulfilling a basically Jewish old scripture, biblical commandment of helping the justice system. That's one of the 7 laws it's called the 7 laws, the Noahide laws. And a judge without a policeman is not a judge. You could say a bunch of verdicts and nothing will be implemented. So you're all, by default, for this position of life that you took upon yourself, this profession, are helping fulfill one of his 7 commandments of the universe, of humanity, which is to help that there should be a system of justice in the country. And for this, again, it's a great privilege. Try to do the other 6 too. There's actually a fellow here, he's very into that. He was interviewed on television many times. He has booklets with the other 6 laws as well. And it's not just for policemen, it's for anyone who wants to just do the right thing. I will mention that there's a big war going on in Ukraine, and everybody feels like sort of handicapped of what are you going to do. And the Lubavitcher Rebbe, who we mentioned, I'm an emissary of, and I hope I fit the bill. Sometimes I feel I don't, but I hope I do. He always used to tell people, remember, your little good deed, the opportunities that police have for kindness is infinite. They stop over somebody, and there could be a person, if they need some tough love, you got to give it. That's why we need you. You can't be Mr. Nice Guy all the time. But sometimes there's an opportunity that you all always experience, and we've seen it from the police, where somebody, needs a chance to learn, and you say, let me make that person happy for the day, and you're doing a real act of kindness, or whether you're just helping a person in trouble and you're going beyond the call of duty to help them. So the Rebbe would always say, your little deed, any deed that's bright, that's kind, that uplifts, that helps, any one of these deeds, they affect the wars in other countries, because it's a vibe, it's an energy, it's a karma, and there's also a spiritual aspect to it, that when humanity is involved in acts of goodness, of brightness, of kindness, it takes upon itself the nature of light. The nature of light is that you can have a vastly dark room and you open up a little flashlight from your smartphone. The light is barely an inch, not even. It's a quarter of an inch in size or whatever, and it brightens up feet of darkness, because that's the nature of light. It dispels much more darkness than its own quantity. So every one of us, police or people who are helping them do their great job for this great city, that we all thank God for how it functions, at least to a certain degree. We have a tremendous amount of, everything can be improved, but there's a great amount of thanks that we owe to this force. So every one of us, including the police, who have the opportunities of acts of kindness, when you do a little deed with a little person, little in importance, no one knows that man or woman in an apartment, and you went beyond the call of duty, made them feel good, you're affecting the wars in Ukraine. That's just how it works. Whether we understand it exactly or not, that is the truth. So I bless you all. You should do this in good health, and you should continue in doing your acts of goodness and kindness, because this will help the world, not only the local community. And God bless you all to stay safe.
Thank you.
People want to see them. Please. Please.
So I'll say a few words, and first off, I feel
Afterward, there's refreshments there. People are hungry or thirsty.
I feel incredibly honored and blessed to be here right now. This is an amazing honor, and I realize that. And a little about myself, in case anyone doesn't know who I am. I'm the NYPD Borough Commander for Brooklyn South for this borough. I know Inspector Taylor's here right now. It might be a little riff right now with what I'm going to say, but I'm going to say it, and he knows where I'm going. I'm also I'm Jewish. I'm the highest ranking Jewish police officer in the NYPD. Inspector Taylor is the highest ranking yarmulke wearer. I'm sorry? You got the top two. So, and why do I say that? I say that because if you're watching me when the rabbis are speaking, and speaking about history and giving us thanks, and if you saw, I was watching, I recognize the value, and I recognize the deep meaning behind honoring our two lost cops, Officer Rivera and Officer Mora, and honoring them or their memory with the Torah in their name. So it really means a lot. And to both rabbis, to everyone that's in this room right now, thank you for coming. Thank you for the incredible honor. And on behalf of, take myself out of the equation, on behalf of the families of Officer Rivera and Officer Mora, and on behalf of the NYPD, with all sincerity, thank you so much for this blessing and so much for this honor. It means so much to each and every one of us, and thank you on my team for coming. Thank you very much.